TJ the Wheel Deal coming at you live. It is Friday, May the 23rd, 9:30 a.m. Central Time, Texas time as I like to say. And we're going to focus on a couple of key positions today, mainly Palantir. And we'll obviously talk about Tesla. We'll do a rundown. But I'm going to focus on those mainly and then also show y'all where I landed with my son's account. So anyway, appreciate each and every one of you guys this morning. It's already 30 people that have checked it out on X. There's 5 people rocking with me live. I know Mitt is still live on YouTube, so I'm not expecting a big crowd here today, and that's okay. This is going to be a treat for you guys, though. I'm preferring these smaller crowds because I can really focus on the chat and answer y'all's questions along the way. What's going on? How's the bot thing going on X? There's a lot of bots, and none of them are Optimus on X. It's out of control. So I'm now just verified accounts only, dude. I'm just done with that shit. It is just absolutely ridiculous. And honestly, it's almost like a bear case for me for Tesla to a certain extent. I'm like, y'all can't figure out the bot thing on X. How am I really supposed to believe in Optimus and full self-driving and robo-taxi? I mean, it's just shit is out of control. Absolutely out of control. What's going on, Stefan or Steven? K. Dallas, Larmo. Thoughts on CSP on Apple today? I have not been following closely, guys. I have not been following closely on Apple. I think Apple is an absolute staple. It could be the staple in a lot of portfolios, but it's one of those things that's probably not going to do a whole lot. I think that it has gotten beaten up here recently, so the downside's probably pretty limited in my opinion. But also, like, how are they going to ignite growth? Is these funky looking glasses? Is that really going to be the next vertical? I don't know. What's going on, Riot? Have you talked to Jason? No, I have not talked to Jason. I was going to send out an email to see if we can get him on the channel. Is there still room to join your group? I still have the membership turned on, so you just got to look like on the. I think there's a join button, I believe. Thoughts on buying straight up Bitcoin? I love that idea if you don't need to be selling options. Like if you don't need to sell cover calls, that's just not your thing, then I think that Bitcoin is one of the best assets classes that you can hold. It doesn't fit my criteria because I'm addicted to selling options, right? So it's one of those things. You got to do you. Everybody's running their own race here. What's going on, Hans? 1 second. Let me let the group know that I'm live. There we go. So anyway, let's get into it. First thing I want to feature today is the spreadsheet. So the spreadsheet is it's visually appealing. It's easier for me to make it bigger, smaller, etc. So I try to feature this one, and then I go on to the actual brokerage. So that's a good point also. I like BITX also. Used BITX a couple of different occasions. Not able to do that one on Tasty Trade yet. I need to have a conversation with them because that is definitely one that I'm very, very comfortable with. And I like that idea a lot. You don't have to deal with earnings, all that stuff. So anyway, what's going on with the portfolio? So let's talk about it. So Amazon is a short strangle now. Remember, it used to be a covered strangle. It's a short strangle now. Why? I don't own the shares anymore. Why? Because I needed to free up buying power. 1 second. Live on YouTube. I needed to free up buying power because I saw the writing on the walls with Tesla, and I need to make sure that I have all my soldiers ready to go to war to go defend that position. If Tesla doesn't moonshot on me, I'm gonna have to buy like $3 million worth of long calls so that I don't have that unlimited risk to the upside. And I've been buying some shares along the way, trying to get, a little bit more delta neutral, if you will. So that is the thing. So I increased the position though on Amazon. So now I have 200 on the put, 220 on the call for 8:15. This is actually 8:15, so I need to fix that. And it is now actually 200 contracts. So that is the equivalent of, it's about 85% of the equivalent of owning the shares. So I'm not really missing out on anything. Amazon does the moonshot as long as it doesn't go past 220. Now, what's the flip side of this thing? What's the downside? It's real simple, guys. Since I don't own the shares anymore, at some point I'd have to deliver these shares, or I'd have to continue to manage to the upside. To the downside doesn't really scare me because my average before was 203. Now I'd be committed to buying 20,000 shares at 200. So I don't really have to babysit this position to the downside, as I'm comfortable to the downside, and I just got to manage to the upside. I think this is a nice little range. I would like to stay in this trade, roll and expand, roll and expand. When I'm about 30, 40 points wide, I'll feel very, very comfortable, and I can let it go to the finish line. The premiums are pretty decent. So that's what's going on with Amazon. In phase, it was a short straddle that I brought onto the books, but then in phase tanked, and now I turned it into a straddle where I sold the put, sold the call, same expiration date, and sitting at $44, and we're just kind of playing a game of wait and see. It's for 620. I'm hoping to stay in this particular position for the next week or two, and then I'll kick it out a month, and then I'll try to get down to like 42 or 40 on the put side. And then at 40, give me the shares. I want to take assignment. I know that things don't look good. It's doom and gloom, all that stuff. But in phase at $40, my goodness, I loved it. I mean, I got to remember, I was in this position at 140 at one time, 11,000 shares. And then I made a little bit of money between the $55 and $70 range on in phase. So that was a positive experience. Got out of it because I had shares called away. And then now we're back over here. So now you're telling me I can have 10,000 shares at $44. I could roll and maybe take ownership at 42, 40, something like that. Sign me up. I could ride these shares up as a swing trade, $5 or $10 over the next year or two. The premiums are really good. I can do a covered strangle on it if the shares were to get assigned. I like my chances to manufacture the win here on in phase. And then at some point, there will be a positive catalyst to the company. And if I happen to own shares, I wouldn't mind riding those up for a while. But I'm perfectly okay never owning shares as well, and then just making money on the puts and calls. Google, another short strangle. Short strangle, you sell the put, you sell the call, you don't own the shares. So it's a short strangle, it's not a covered strangle. Whenever you own the shares, that is a covered strangle. So I call them sweet spot trades. I've got 165 and 185. That's the sweet spot, right? Anything in between there, and this expires on 8/15. I'll be more comfortable when this is another 10, 15 point wide. And then I feel like I can ride all the way to the end. Why do I keep saying ride out all the way to the end, to expiration? Because at some point I want to get rid of a lot of these so that I can talk about the featured position of the day, because I found a trade that I'm just a lot more comfortable in, and that is the Palantir trade, and possibly even this hood trade here also. So hood, short strangle, sweet spot, 55 and 60, 100 contracts for 8/15. And I had purposely kicked everything down the road so that I could go real heavy on Palantir, and we'll talk about that in a second. NVIDIA, short strangle, 130, 140, playing this one real tight. Why? Because I don't mind owning NVIDIA at 130. If I get it at like 125, 120, sign me up, ride the shares up, $5 or $10, get out of them. I want to stay in cash, guys. The only stock that I want to own is Tesla, and then the ETF TSLL to help me out for upside protection on the massive short strangle that I have on Tesla. Palantir, we're going to skip over this one for a second. SoFi, these are actually, what are these? What's going on with SoFi? Okay, so we've got Cascade put in the distance at $12, 1,500 others. I think it's actually 1,000 though. I got to get this right. This is 1,000. It's not 1,500 anymore. It's 1,000. So $12, and then I've got calls expiring in a month or so on 620 at 15. Those are doing pretty well. And then Soxel's a brand new one. I just sold it this morning, a little short strangle, and I'm totally okay taking ownership of the shares as well, 100 contracts 14 on the low side, 1750 on the high side. Probably won't be looking to roll this one too much. This one expires next Friday. I'm okay just buying the 10,000 shares and turning it into a covered strangle if I feel a lot of pressure to the upside. So that is a way that I can choose to play that versus rolling. So whenever you have the bankroll, you can just turn the damn thing into a covered strangle, buy the shares, call life good, and then the shares get called away. Who gives a shit? You don't have an unlimited risk to the upside because you can buy the shares at any time. So if that happens and I choose not to roll, then I just as soon own the shares. Got plenty of money to do so. It's I'd probably look to buy them around $17 or so and call life good. It's really that simple. And it's not a huge position. It's 100 contracts. I'm down a lot on SOXL from a previous trade, and this gave about $6,000 or $7,000. So if I could just do that every week, I'd be cool with something like that. But again, if I need to take ownership of this ETF, I'm totally okay doing that. And then the Tesla short strangle is massive. The CSP or the short puts at 280. The short calls at 450, 535 contracts on the short put side, 635 contracts on the short call side. Just absolutely massive for January. So this level here, Tesla just cruises here, and I collect that theta, which is about $14,000, $15,000 a day on this particular position. I'm loving it. Feature position, guys. Here we go. Palantir. I went ham on this thing. I just saw it, started studying the charts, talked to a couple of other technical charter people, and they're like, hey, dude, this thing probably going to be range bound here for the next 30 to 45 days. You're already on the other side of earnings. So this is an ideal candidate. So I sold the short put. I was actually at 100, but then I got a little bit more ballsy. So I'm at 110 on the short put side and 150 on the short call side. I feel like I don't even have to look at it for the short call side. So that part's free money in my mind. And I'm just managing the short put side. I don't want shares at 110. I'd have to keep rolling and rolling and rolling. 70, 80 bucks. That's the absolute high end of where I would be comfortable taking ownership of the shares. I went heavy, guys, 500 contracts. So this is a position that I want to keep on the books over and over and over again. The capital requirements are pretty significant. We'll look here on the brokerage in just a second. But this is it was like a 36-day trade initially, but it was a 30-day trade since yesterday because I did the 400 extra contracts yesterday. And guys, it pays about $230,000 a month. And I want to keep this one on, eventually put this one at 1,000 contracts, maybe more, depending on whether or not more money's getting into the account in a timely fashion. I'm just going to keep it here at 500 because I do want to put myself in a position to where there's downside pressure on it and I choose to take ownership of the shares. I could do that. There's plenty of buying power there. So that's what's going on with it in a nutshell. And then what I want to show y'all here is the open shares. All we got, Tesla, 8,000 shares, TSLL, 10,000 shares. That's it. There's a lot of you guys that did not believe that it was going to end up like this. But I've been telling y'all, I want you to comment, I didn't believe you. I didn't believe you because I know a lot of you fuckers didn't believe me. And that's okay. I'm running my race, you're running yours. But I knew that the portfolio was going to end up like this. Ultimately, it's going to be between 10 and 25,000 shares of Tesla, and it's probably going to be 250,000 shares of TSLL because that's where all the Amazon shares have gone. That's where all the SoFi shares have gone. That's where all the Riot shares have gone. And then I'm just playing the other positions via short strangles and things like that. And you'll notice that over here, there's no more Clean Spark or Riot at the moment. There isn't because there wasn't enough money on it. I hadn't turned on portfolio margin yet. Now it's on. So now they can potentially come back on. But I got to see something compelling because they are smaller prices, if you will. They're cheaper stocks. I have to do a shitload of contracts, so there's a lot of fees involved and stuff. So I am going to have a negotiation with Tasty Trade middle of next week, and I'm going to see if they can lower some of these fees for us so that it can be more compelling for me to have 1,000 and 2,000 contracts on at a time. So CleanSpark and Riot are not in the portfolio in any way, shape, or form right here, right now on the big account. They will be very, very soon, probably by the middle of next week. So that's what's going on with the portfolio in a nutshell. Let me check on with you guys. Let me remove this. I'm going to get ready to present the actual brokerage. But before I do that, I want to catch up with you guys over here. So that's kaleidoscope action. Perfect. So it's already queued up. So let me see what's going on with you guys. Where are we at here? Here we go. Why not buy Bitcoin? We did that one already for June. You sold all the Amazon shares. Yes, I sold all the Amazon shares right at what I paid for them. And then I increased the contract so that I have the same deltas. This is a game of deltas at the end of the day. So it's almost the equivalent. And we'll look at it. I'll walk y'all through. We're going to go to school today. We're going to take our time. And I'm going to really help y'all to understand the Tasty Trade platform and what it shows you, like your delta exposure, your theta exposure, all those things. Because at the end of the day, it's just about manufacturing the delta exposure that you want. One share is one delta. So keep that in mind. So there's other ways to go around it. What's going on, Jose Cruz? Hit the like. Appreciate you guys. One day you will have your ass handed to do selling short Strangles without owning the underlying shares. I'd be very careful. Yankee Doodle Dandy. That's fair. We do have a shitload of money though, and we're willing to buy the shares. I've already proven that I'm willing to own shares. So I have an idea of how to do it, but I appreciate the good vibes. Am I screwed with my Palantir shares? I bought Palantir in the $14 range. Okay. That part sounds good. Let me keep reading. But then I sold covered calls in the $60 strike range, and Palantir, of course it did. And Palantir took off like a rocket, and now I have rolled Palantir to November, okay, for $72.5 strike. But how would you play it now? Just let them get called away if Palantir doesn't come down. Well, you've got plenty of time on the clock, right? So we're talking about November. We're in May. So we got June, July, August, September, October, November. So you got about 5-6 months left on this contract. You rolled it once, you could do it again. I'd stay in the trade again. Not financial advice. This is just what I would look to do if you wanted to keep owning these shares. Is you let a couple months run off the clock, and then you can sell, you can roll again. And you went from 60 to 72.50. Hopefully you did so for a credit. And you can do it again, and then the goal or the objective for me would be to, let me try to get to like 77 on the next one. And then keep doing it again. And Palantir still doing Palantir things because it's just an amazing company. It keeps getting a bunch of contracts. It keeps re-upping contracts. I mean, the thing's doing awesome. Is it overpriced, overvalued, all those things? I think so. But this is where the market has it right now. So what's Palantir worth? About $122 a share. Put in the market, right? So I would just keep trying to roll up and roll up and roll up every 2 or 3 or 4 months, roll a little bit, try to get another $3, $4, $5, and keep doing it over and over and over again. And eventually you might catch the stock, or maybe at least exit in the $90, $95 range. And it's not as painful because you don't leave as much money on the table. If you don't have anywhere else that you want to put your money, because your ROI, like your cash flow is going to dry up while you're doing this, but you're picking up something even more value, which is capital appreciation, right? Intrinsic value. So it just depends on what you're trying to do and what you're comfortable with. Because whenever you get in that situation, a lot of times your hands are tied and now you're not able to maneuver as much. So you can get kind of restless. So whenever you get caught in that type of situation, it can really test your patience. Hey, what's going on, Mr. International? Just keep rolling. I see we already talked about that. I think it's awesome. I think it is absolutely awesome. I'm pretty sure I'll get back into my Amazon shares here pretty soon. I didn't think that the portfolio margin was going to go through. So now that it has gone through, I'm kind of looking forward to getting assigned at 200, or I may roll to like 195 or so. I feel like I didn't really have like a great entry point at 203. So I was just kind of like looking at the chart. I think Amazon's going to be kind of range bound here for a little bit. Again, this is just using my little technical prowess that I don't really talk about on the channel much, but I'm a charter dude. I look at this shit a lot and I feel pretty confident with it. And again, I have the money to buy the fucking shares. So it's not that big of a deal either to the upside for me, and it's Amazon. I didn't believe you, but I respect it, man. The heat doesn't bother us. When you were building up your account, did you trade on margin? I only use margin to sell puts. I don't use margin to own shares. I have at times, but on a much smaller scale. That is definitely something I just not condone, man. I got two buddies that have lost a lot of money because they own shares on margin, and they got in a pinch. And they weren't able to get out of it. So again, you gotta know the entire financials of the person handling the account, if that makes sense. Because if you're just going to look at the account and that's all you have to work with, you'd be like, oh, this dude's, this is not going to work out well. But you also got to know the money that's backing this whole operation here, right? So there's, again, this is like I always say, people just stay in your lane and mind your own business, make sure your account's in good shape. I got this one, we're good. So, but I don't recommend trading on margin, not financial advice. It's just life advice. It could definitely ruin you. Can you give us an update on which prices on some companies are buying, what screaming buys? Some months ago, you spoke about it. Yeah, that was on the seminar. We'll talk about it here in a second. Of course. That's why I'm freeing up money, guys. That's why I'm freeing up money to buy probably 200, 300 calls on Tesla. I did for a credit, and I'm still bullish long-term on Palantir, but I agree with you. It feels kind of overvalued short-term, so just keep rolling up every three. Yeah, right on. Unless I find some better way to play. I don't have your bankroll on the cost side on the string. And that is perfectly fair. That is perfectly fair. So what's the risk? What's the obvious risk whenever you sell short strings? It's a supersized move to either side. The downside move doesn't scare me because I'm dealing with companies or ETFs that I'm pretty excited about. And it's like, okay, cool, you're managing to the downside. The deal is getting better and better every time you're rolling, you lower your strike price. So to me, just managing puts in general is a hell of a lot easier than managing calls that go crazy. They go against you. So you got to have a plan in place. What's the plan? Buy the damn shares and turn it into a covered strangle. And then the shares get called away. Who gives a shit? You're right back into cash. You on the put side. All the premiums were you're on the call side. The only thing that happened is the position got a lot more expensive for a short amount of time. That is the obvious way to fix it. But the issue is people get into these short strangles and they don't have the money or the intention or the conviction to actually buy the shares and turn it into a covered strangle. Every position that I'm in, with the exception of Tesla, because there's not enough money to turn it into a covered strangle right now, I'm doing it bit by bit as I win trades. I'm buying shares. I don't know if y'all have figured out the game plan. The members that are rocking with me on the WhatsApp group know what's going on. Every time I have a bunch of winning trades, I'm adding shares to Tesla. You'll look up, I'll be at 15, 20,000 shares of Tesla, and they'll be like, hey, this position doesn't look as naked on the upside, if you will. So that's kind of, a real basic game plan of what I've got going on. I want to share too much over here because I reserve that kind of information for our members that rock with me every day on the WhatsApp group. Drive me crazy with all those messages, by the way. Y'all know who you are, Terrence and Will. Where are we at here? I also sell puts on margin at times, but if they're signed or close in the money, you have to ultimately buy the shares. So still deciding if I want to use maybe just 20% margin. Yeah, it just really depends on your personal bankroll. I'm not talking about the bankroll of the account. I'm talking about your personal bankroll, like where are you at? Like on a personal level, we have 2.25 million ready to deploy, and we're working on having another 3 to 5 million. So there's pipeline for funding as well, because this is an infinite game, right? We're trying to eventually build this thing up to 100 million bucks. So there's going to be a lot of maneuvering along the way. So I think one of the worst things you can do, keep in mind, comparison is a thief of joy, right? So keep that in mind. But I think one of the worst things that you can do is compare your bankroll and your situation to our situation, and then be like, oh, I can't do this because I don't have X, Y, and Z. And it's just, Like, mind your own business, mind your portfolio, do what's best for your situation and for your portfolio, if that makes sense. That's awesome. Real estate's so hard, man. God bless everybody that makes money in real estate. I just feel like it's such a hard way to make money. I have like some of my best friends are in real estate, and it's just the stress that I hear in their voice sometimes. It's just like, oh my Lord, I just want to hug them. I just want to hug them. It's like, oh, interest rates. Oh, this buyer backed out. Oh, whatever. I'm just like, oh shit, man. Here it's like, if we have shares, we can sell covered calls at any time, and there's plenty of crackheads out there. Like, there's plenty of junkies out there ready to buy those contracts. That it's kind of scary, actually. So anyway, let's get into it, guys. Let's get into it. Let's go over here, and we're gonna put me right over here, and then we're gonna see if that auto populates. It should. Okay. I'm just waiting to have the TV on with the there we go. Perfect. So I just want to make sure that I'm showing you all the right stuff. So we're going to start with the little account today. So I got 3 positions in Sun's portfolio. I shot over another $1,000 to the portfolio yesterday. So this is what's going on. So there's Neo, it's a little short strangle, and I'm totally okay getting assigned the shares. Well, actually, this one's even cooler from the standpoint that there's already 1,000 shares out. Bought 1,000 shares at $389. Sold the put at $4. Sold the call at $450. So I'm okay. Just if it goes up, I can already deliver those shares, right? Because I already own 1,000 shares. So there's no real risk to the upside here. The risk is to the downside, and I'm totally okay buying another 1,000 shares at $4. And I look at the cash, and there's a little bit of cash there, right? $8,000. So we're good. So there's not a whole lot of stress here. Over here, what you see now is just a buy right strategy, where on Riot, so let me minimize Neo. On Riot, there's 3,000 shares owned at $6.89. It's currently going for $8.66 according to Tasty Trade, and those shares are for sale at $9.50, expiring today. All of them are for sale. Picked up a little bit of money, $180, I think, is what was picked up. And I'm just gonna let it expire. It was a one-day trade, guys. A one-day trade. On TSOL, there's 1,500 shares owned at $8.85, and I put those shares for sale at $16. Picked up a little bit of money. Picked up $165 or so. One-day covered call. And that's just kind of the way that I'm doing it, because this is just mostly a buy and hold account. When I see opportunities, I'll sprinkle in some money with some cover call premiums. The only strangle that I'm running over here is on Neo. There's not enough money to run the strangle on Riot. There's not enough money to run the strangle on TSLL. I have considered just picking one of these and rocking with it. If TSLL were to dip in the 1250 range, it's going to be TSLL. If Riot were to dip back in the 7s, I'd probably just sell all of TSLL and then just run a cover strangle campaign on Riot and Neo. And then eventually I want to get out of Neo, and then I would just rock with Riot. But I'm trying to get this account to 100 grand. And right now, these are the ones that I'm looking for. I obviously have an affinity for SoFi, so that is one that I consider as well, because it's got to be something cheap, right? Because the portfolio doesn't have a lot of money in it. It's about a $60,000 account. And then there's also Soxel, there's Clean Spark that I would consider as well, but we'll see. We'll see. So that's what's going on with that account. Now let's get into the featured account. And you guys are going to see there, we're going to go from the top to the bottom. It's Amazon. What's going on at Amazon? No more shares, but there's 200 puts and 200 calls. And it is 200 and 220, 84 days out. And it's like right at the money on the 200. I would love for Amazon to tank a little bit so that I could manage the cash secured puts and go get a better entry point. And I go scoop up 20,000 shares this time. But instead of at 203, it'd be awesome if I was like at 193 or 183. Even about to babysit this ship for the next 6 months to a year, that would be very, very exciting for me. If Amazon were to start pushing up aggressively, I ain't going to mess with it. I would just buy the freaking shares again. Call life good. So that's what's going on with Amazon. in phase. This is this short strangle now that I got, or the straddle that I got going on. It was a strangle. This one was sitting at 48 on the call side. I rolled it down to 44 to pick up additional credits. That way I can stay in the trade longer. And if these shares got assigned to me, it's kind of whatever, right? So that's 440 grand that I got to buy of in phase. And I would just start selling cover calls against those shares. And then I immediately sell 100 more cash secured puts, but probably in like the 32 or $33 range. So just keep bringing money through the door. And if I got assigned at 44, eventually I like to be okay selling the shares at 44 and getting back into cash. That's kind of how I'm playing in phase. Google, I've seen it here. It's a short strangle, 165, 185. This one here, I'm not as excited to take ownership of, but I would. If I keep rolling down to like 150, that would be a very, very exciting entry point for Google, in my opinion. It's a much better entry point than Amazon at 200 because I just think Google is a better valuation all the way around. But I'm just going to keep rolling and expanding. Things get out of hand, buy the long calls, buy the shares. It gets more expensive, but it gives you a very clear exit strategy at that point. That way you don't have that unlimited risk to the upside. Managing to the downside, again, I'm going to say it one more time, and I'm going to say it 100 times. It's just so much easier for me to manage to the downside because the deals just get better for you. When you're managing to the upside, you're like, I don't know how bad this thing can get. On the downside, you have this idea, okay, what's the absolute worst that can happen with Amazon? Probably 150. What's the absolute worst that can happen with in phase? I don't know, maybe 27, 28 bucks, in my opinion. As much as it's been hammered and stuff, you start looking at the valuation of the company and whatnot. I'm thinking like 27, 28 would probably be the absolute bottom on in phase. So I like the risk reward there. Google, I'm thinking like 130 would probably be the absolute worst. Hood, probably 40 bucks. Nvidia, probably 120 or so, in my opinion. I know that it's seen lower prices than that, but again, earnings will be creeping up and stuff again, and Nvidia is going to keep killing it. So I just think 120, maybe I could see a world where it would go to 110. Other than that, I just don't see it anymore. I don't see it anymore right here, right now. Palantir, this is the massive strangle that I just put on. 110 and 150. Now, keep in mind, guys, this is a $5.5 million commitment to buy Palantir, and the money's there. There's $12 million in brokerage cash. So I'm able to do it if I needed to. So if you're going to put on these types of strangles, you better make sure that you have the cash. If not, it's just a matter of when. But it will probably, like Yankee Doodle was saying, it could blow up in your face. It could blow up in your face in a really, really big way. So you need to make sure that you have the money and you have the conviction to execute. Either buy the shares or buy the calls, take the pressure off the upside. To the downside, it's a lot easier. But also you got to make sure that you have the money to buy the shares though, right? So this is a very, very, very capital intensive strategy. And that's why you see the positions getting it's like at 12 to 15. Now I'm at 10. Eventually I'm probably going to be at like 5 because I got to make sure that I'm willing to dig real, real deep. And I got to make sure that my buying power is on point. You're seeing 4 million in options buying power because I turned on portfolio margin. And that helps out a lot. So I guess the biggest risk whenever you sell short strangles is you spread yourself too thin. Your buying power just diminishes very, very quickly. And now you're having to get out of winning positions to try to finance losing positions, and it could just be catastrophic. It's like a snowball effect and not in a good way. So I feel real, real good about the Palantir trade. I don't really like Palantir at all at 110, but this is where the market has it. I'd be excited if 2 or 3 weeks can come off the clock and it's still hanging out here and I'm sitting at 50, 60, 70% of realized gains or P&L open percentage on this particular trade. And then on the next round, if I could roll it to 110 and maybe keep it at 150, then I feel like 30% better about the trade. On the next round, I could roll it to 90 and keep it at like 150, maybe lower it to 145 to stay a little bit more delta neutral, depending on what Palantir is doing. I feel much better about it. But all the while I'm doing that, the credits are accumulating. Well, I am live on YouTube. Do you want me to hold him? Where are you going? What does that mean?
I'm going to be preparing this room.
But what are you doing with your ring finger?
I'm going to get a manicure.
Oh, weirdo. He's following you. Anyway, so when would I feel really, really comfortable? $80, 80 and probably 140. Then just let it all right out. I'm hoping to do this 6-7 months before I can get it to those levels. And then at that point, I'm excited because give me all those shares. Gavin, give me all those shares of Palantir at $80 and sell very aggressive cover calls against it. Do I think Palantir is going to go to those levels? Probably not. I've been wrong on the Palantir price the whole time. This is one time I'm hoping to kind of be right on it being Gavin on it being overvalued and it starts coming back down because I'll feel a lot better about it. But the neat thing about it, let me get my little cone head. Gavin was neutered, so he's got the little cone on his head. But anyway, so why did I like Palantir so much for this? Because there's not a lot of risk to the upside here in my mind. I put it at 150. I just do not think Palantir is going to go to 150. So I'm like, I'm really only managing one side of this equation, but I did pick up a cool 100 grand or so on the other side. So if you look at it here, I'm up already 34,000. And again, there's no rolling involved here. This is just an initial trade. So I'm up 34,000 on the call side. All the pressure is to the downside because I sold a very aggressive put. If we look at the table over here, you'll see that the put is at 24 delta and the call is at a 14 delta. So it's like Palantir has been an absolute pain in the ass for the upside. So if I was going to run a short strangle on Palantir, I want to do it when Palantir is at the upper end of where it's ever been. And then also, aggressive cash secure puts, and I'll manage those. And I mean, this thing's like way outside of the expected move. So eventually, if the 110 gets challenged, the idea before rolling the entire position is to roll the 150 down to like 130 and pick up a lot more credits. That way I can stay in the trade longer. And then I can roll the entire position as we get a little bit closer to expiration. Then I can roll that out another month. And then if there's pressure on the 110s, I can roll now from the 110 to like the 100. And now I'm getting excited because every time I roll down on the put, the deal is just getting better for me. But I don't see a world unless Palantir really, really craters, something happens with the narrative, something really happens with the macro. I don't see me wanting to tempt fate too much and get too greedy on the calls. I'll only be rolling the calls down whenever we're a lot closer to expiration. But like right here, right now, there's no reason to roll this call down to like 130 just to pick up all of those credits, because more than likely I'll have to be rolling the damn call out, and then I could just be feeing myself to death, if that makes sense. So that is what's going on with it in a nutshell. Real quick on Tesla, there's now 8,000 shares at 277. And then I got the 535 puts at 535 puts at 280, 635 calls at 450. And we are collecting data, guys. So if you read this thing right here, if you follow it to the right side, you're going to see the capital requirements is 2.8 on Tesla. There's $14,963 of data being collected every day on this position. And I have a negative delta of $2,300. So for every dollar that Tesla goes up, it's costing me $2,300. But then I'm running this position in conjunction with TSOL, and with TSOL, I have 100,000 delta. Why? Because there's 100,000 shares. Each share is 1 delta. So I still don't have enough protection to the upside. What would help me? What would give me sufficient protection to the upside right now? Probably buying a couple hundred calls, maybe even some leaps. That would help. buying maybe 7,000 more shares of Tesla, that would help. Buying 50,000 shares of TSLL, that would help. So why am I looking at buying shares and not leaps? Because shares don't expire. Shares don't expire. And then the other thing that I have that I could do is sell some calls. Gavin, settle down, buddy. I could sell some calls against these shares right here, but then that creates a lot of pressure on the account that I just don't want, because if Tesla starts doing a moonshot, I'm going to be really, really grateful and thankful that I did not sell calls against those TSLL shares. So that's what's going on with the portfolio in a nutshell. Let me get out of here and let me just do a little bit of Q&A with you guys and call life good. Where are we at here? Here we go. I think I did this one. No, here we go. Jobs, Gates, Habez, De La Cruz. I have 20 Palantir covered calls at 1:30 expiration, November the 21st. Okay. I don't want to lose them. What can I do to hedge or protect it in a big upside? You can buy calls. You can buy calls. Hey, what's going on, Medicare? What's your thesis with all dilution? I think that Riot needs to come across with a data center deal, right? With an HPC AI deal. They're kind of really, really good at mining Bitcoin. They made a lot of improvements over the last 18 months. I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping to talk to Jason about it and see, what they're trying to do with the company. I'm pretty sure it's obvious because they've said it, is they're putting everything into this HPC, the AI, whatever, the deal. They're trying to leverage their infrastructure. So we'll see how it goes. What estimates would you give a $200,000 portfolio, $100,000 portfolio, or $50,000 portfolio in premium? Like, how much would you aim to make monthly with these portfolios or premium monthly? I'm always shooting for 3 to 4% monthly in premium collected, knowing that I'm only going to capture 2 to 2.5%. So that's the standard, regardless of the portfolio size. When I sold covered calls on Uber, I felt bad when it went up so much over my strike, 88 and 90. Now I feel blessed again. Covered calls are protecting so good. Right on. So with the strangle, you really don't capture any profit until you finally get your guardrails wide enough for it to expire worthless. It depends. It depends. Like, that's not entirely true, because you're more than likely always going to be winning one side on these strangles, right? So keep that in mind. So when people talk about this unlimited risk, they're really talking about the unlimited risk to the upside. To the unlimited risk to the downside is pretty limited. Amazon going to zero? I don't think so. Is Google going to zero? I don't think so. I don't think Tesla going to zero. I don't think I got anything in the portfolio that can go to zero mathematically, except for probably Zoxel, right? So, and then that's luckily a pretty small position for us. Enphase going to zero? I don't think so. Could it go to 20? Maybe. I'm thinking more like the high 20s, but we'll see. Who knows? Who knows on the pricing of these things? But so the risk isn't so much to the downside for me. The risk is always to the upside if they do something parabolic. So you got to be ready to pull the trigger. You got to be ready to pull the trigger. If you don't want to pull the trigger, don't do a strangle. Don't do the strangle. If you don't want to put yourself in a position to where the thing that you should do is just own the damn shares and cover the position, don't do the strangle. It's not for you. You're not for it, in my opinion, right? Not financial advice. Theoretically, if you're in a trade 1 to 2 years constantly rolling and gets away from you, it could be a massive loss in the end. That is, all those things can be true. All of those things can be true. So this isn't a money glitch or a guaranteed way to make money. This is just a way that I'm working the portfolio right now. And I predominantly did it on 2 stocks that have one key component. I think they're extremely overpriced: Tesla and Palantir. So my whole thesis of doing this hinges on those facts. In my mind, they are facts. I think that Palantir, as great a company as it is so freaking overpriced, it is egregious. Same thing with Tesla. It's all amazing. Robots, robotaxis, semis. It's all amazing. At the end of the day, the freaking PE is ridiculous. The PE, any PE that you want to look at, forwards, backwards, left and right, however you want to look at it, it is ridiculous for Palantir as well. There's only so much money I'm willing to pay for $1 of earnings. Let's just be real. So I have decided that there's not as risk to the upside as people think. So I went heavy on the short strangles with these particular companies. But I also have the money specifically on Palantir to make good on the shares. So that one's not as risky as Tesla. So anytime I have a bunch of winning trades, like I have been since we got on the platform, I take those monies and I buy Tesla shares. So every time I buy Tesla shares, I'm de-risking the position. I'm not really wanting to buy Tesla shares at these levels. I want Tesla to go sub 300 so that I could load up a more significant amount of shares, but Tesla's just not cooperating. But the beautiful thing is that every day I'm collecting theta. Every day I'm collecting theta. So, and there's plenty of buying power there. So if Tesla goes on a parabolic run, I can also move up the strike on the cash secured puts, get a shitload of credits there because people act like I don't have any shares of TSLL. People act like I don't have any shares of Tesla. People act like I don't have 500 puts on Tesla at $280. Because if Tesla goes this way, don't all of those things print? You know what I mean? Just think about it. All of those things print as well. So the position isn't quite as naked as it appears. And there's also a shitload of cash so that I could buy some shares. You know, I can't afford to buy the 40, how many would I need? 43,000, something like that. 45,000, 47,000 shares. That's about how much I need right now to totally cover the position. But then you got to look at, well, the 100,000 shares of TSLL. What's that equivalent, right? So that's where you have to play the game of math and all that stuff. So pretty fun. It's pretty fun stuff. But again, you know, this is wheeling like 201 and 301 now. This is very different from when we started the channel where you sell the fucking cash secure put, wait it out. You know, and the shares, great. Sell the cover call, wait it out. That's great. That's slow though. That's very, very slow. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. And I'm like, well, I'm willing to dance with this stock. I know that I'm willing to own the shares because how many times have I done the buy right strategy where I just buy the damn shares outright? So that's my superpower is I'm willing to own shares. There's a lot of you guys that act like y'all got STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. You're just, and under no circumstances do you want to own any shares. And I think that you're just making a hard game harder with that attitude. So that is my superpower is that I have the money and I have the ability and I have the conviction to own the shares if I need to own the shares, even if it's just for a short amount of time. Because that downside risk doesn't scare me because I'm buy, hold, and hope at the end of the day. That's what I was doing up until 5 years ago. So anyway, that's just how I play the game. Everybody has to mind their own business. They see Mr. Premium on here. Thanks for joining us today. Very, very first episode of Wheelers, this gentleman came on the channel and said, hey, remember, we're all the CEOs of our portfolios. So I'm the CEO of this one. You have to be the CEO of your portfolio, and you ultimately have to do what makes the most dollars and cents for you, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. I got to run. TJ the Wheel Deal signing off. As always, make sure you guys stay blue, stock green. Peace out. God bless you guys.